everybody. It has been a long time since I have streamed anything on Twitch. I moved at the very end of August with my partner, halfway across the country. I had an extremely rocky, weird, complicated move with our cats who are currently running around the apartment. And I've uploaded some stuff to YouTube, at Honest Cities on YouTube. I have a podcast that I've been planning on officially releasing for over a month now, but finally have branding lined up and a little website lined up, a couple of episodes edited. More on that eventually, hopefully soon. But none of that is why I'm here today. Today, I'm going to play the demo for this lovely game, Merry Crisis, which is a visual novel with dating sim elements type game that has over 12,000 words. Is that correct? It has an absurd amount of dialogue. Actually, way more than 12,000 words. 240,000 and the full game, and over 10,000 here in the demo. And the full game is going to be 8 chapters. I'm not sure how many the demo is. It might just be 1. It might just be the little precursor to demos. We'll find out. But this game is made by Monsoon Studios, Monsoon Games. And one of them reached out to me, and I was like, yes, I love this. I'm going to check it out. I love this. I'm going to play it right now. And here we are. So I did start it for a little bit just to make sure it was running fine. It is, there's not persistent music, or at least for me there isn't, but the sound effects and everything were still kicking in for some different characters popping up and things happening. So audio seems to be working. It's a demo. It's a work in progress. This game's supposed to be coming out around this time next year, so I'll probably be playing it again. But let's just dive in. Let's meet this cast of characters. I love this little weather change effect with the cursor. Very excited to meet this dog. Love a good dog. And all dogs are good dogs. So let's just begin. Let's start. Okay, player setup. Ooh. The cats are running. We might get a cat appearance on screen, or we might just hear them play fight the entire time. Let's see. All right. Player setup. First up, you are, I'm going to stick with IRL, a non-binary person. You were born, sure, I'll keep it to me for now. There are 3 romanceable characters, all of them gender selectable. I wonder if that means regardless of your character's gender, you can romance any of them. Oh, or we change their own. That's cool. Custom. Your very recent ex and flatmate. Ooh. Ex turned roommate. We're going to make them a man. I guess we're going to make him a man, if those are his pronouns. Your first love you've lost touch with. We'll go other end of the spectrum. Your neighbor's new tenant. I'm just going to keep doing this either, other, every other vibe. Okay, prologue. The Arrival. December 23rd. Immediately, a brief aside. Where I used to live for almost my entire life, we would get a lot of snow. It would look like this. Although not as big of a city. Didn't have this aesthetic. But where I live now, we don't get very much snow. We haven't had any snowfall yet. We might get some in a couple days, and I'm kind of looking forward to it. I love when it actually looks like this, and it's just white and fluffy and clean, and before it's turned shades of brown and yellow and gross and mush. You sprint down the street. There had been an early sprinkling of snow 2 days ago, and the streets are still slippery with patches of black ice. Yeah, I would not be sprinting. It's absolute madness to be running full tilt the way you are, but nobody bats an eye. New York is full of people who are late to something or another. In your case, your flight to Singapore is in less than 3 hours. Singapore is where the studio is located. And you still need to grab your stuff from the apartment. Run like my life's on the line, slow down. I'm going to slow down to avoid falling flat on my face, because that would ruin my day, especially if I then had to catch a flight later. If I broke my nose, it would not be a fun trip. You figure that if you end up as roadkill, you definitely won't make it for Christmas dinner. Your mother's already mad enough that you're visiting for only a week, so you don't want to know how she'd react if you don't come home at all. You are a yard from your apartment building when two very familiar hairy things burst out of the front door and charge toward you. Oh my god, 2 dogs! Look at this little dude. They leap straight at you, yapping noisily, knocking you off balance. You take a step back, right into a patch of ice, you flail frantically in the blind hope of catching a nearby railing. Whoa! Fortunately, someone catches your arm before you faceplant into the sidewalk. So I already wonder if we were just full sprinting, would we have already faceplanted or run into the dogs, or would we have been going fast enough to just totally miss this little encounter? I don't know. It's Nat, your housemate. Housemate/ex? Or housemate being different than flatmate? We'll find out. I'm so sorry. Kehoe and Liz dashed out before I could clip their leashes on. The dogs wagged their tails and beamed at you, completely oblivious to your near-death experience. Liz, the more exuberant of the 2 dogs, chucks a saliva-coated toy bone at you. I love this face. Look at the expression on this little doggo. I'm never too busy to give the dogs a good pat. That is true. Not even fully reading the second option. This is a must. You technically have no time to spare, but you've never been able to resist these 2. You toss the toy bone for Liz, then give Kehoe a pat. Liz scampers off happily in search of the bone, and even Kehoe gives you an impervious bark of satisfaction. Nat smiles at you, gaze lingering. Even now, it seems Nat has not quite lost his easy affection for you. This might be an opportune time to mention that Nat also happens to be your ex. 4 weeks ago. Okay, so very recent breakup. The breakup had been amicable, mature. The recency also makes sense that they haven't been able to move out or find new roommates or anything yet, too. Also obsessed with the green cabinets. Look at this kitchen. You've both simply been moving in opposite directions, or so Nat had put it anyway. You stand in your kitchen of your shared apartment, reeling from all that had been said and left unsaid. The radiator hisses unevenly in the corner, working overtime to fill the silence. A half-drunk mug of tea sits between you, long since gone cold. You'd sensed that Nat hadn't been happy for a while now, but you hadn't realized it had gotten this bad. Breakup bad. I love you, but we can't keep going on like this. Something sharp, desperate claws at your throat. Are you even happy with me? I'm not unhappy, just too busy and distracted. Hurt? Deep down, I know I haven't been happy either. Ooh. I'm gonna go this route. Partially because it was just revealed Nat still, cares for us, likes us. I don't know. There's a heart. I'm gonna pick it. Truth is, you'd been so busy with your own career that you'd stopped paying attention to what was even happening between you and I and Nat. Perhaps in some ways, you'd willfully refused to see the warning signs because you thought your relationship with Nat was too good to fail. The last 4 years with Nat had been some of the best years of your life. Stupidly, naively, you had genuinely expected those good times to last forever. Nat reaches over and takes your hands in his, smooth and warm, big-knuckled. It's a gesture that's so familiar it makes your heart ache. There's no working it out. Nod silently. I know a dead end when I see one. As much as you wish things had worked out between you two, you've lived long enough to know that sometimes things just don't go the way you want them to. You know a dead end when you see one. You two stare at each other from across the table. The silence stretches between you. You curl your fists, feeling your nails dig deep into flesh. Which reminds me I need to cut my nails. Part of you wants to cling on, but was there anything left to save? A month after the breakup. Present time. Almost. You're still living with Nat in the same tiny apartment. Hey, so you're successfully keeping plants alive, though. You know, the sooner you move out and move on with your life, the better. You've already packed your things into neatly labeled boxes, and you've been scouring websites for apartments to rent. But New York City rent is sky high. As a late 20-something-year-old, I was curious how old all of the characters are, really. They seemed vaguely late 20s. As a late 20-something-year-old without much savings to your name, as a soon-to-be 35-year-old without much savings to my name, there just aren't too many options. The boxes continue sitting on the floor by the door, a reminder of the home you'd built together. I tried to move on. Unlike my belongings, my feelings have proven a lot harder to pack up and stow away. That feels way more real. 4-year relationship, you're still living together and you haven't been able to move out or move on. Probably that. Unlike your possessions, your feelings prove a lot harder to divvy up into neat boxes. Truth is, you're still in love with Nat. You keep expecting to wake up curled around him in the bed you once shared, hoping that these past weeks would just disappear like a fog on a cold autumn morning. But this is no bad dream you can simply wake up from. You try to remind yourself that this is for the best, that this is what Nat wants. But you see it in Nat's eyes sometimes, moments of weakness, where he's unable to hide the way he still feels for you. And in those moments, you think, maybe you haven't lost him completely yet. If you can just find the right things to say or do. Perfect car honk timing. Now we're back to present. The sound of traffic transports you back to the cold street, breath fogging in the December air. You realize that you've been standing on the sidewalk for at least a minute now. Still can't get over this face. It's beginning to snow. Tiny snowflakes have begun to collect in Nat's hair. Reflexively, I lean in to brush the snow from his hair. No. Step back, establishing distance. You step back, putting enough distance between you and Nat to hopefully prevent yourself from doing anything rash. It doesn't, however, stop the small pang in your heart from building to a dull ache. With Nat gazing at you like that, you can't help thinking of all the winter days we'd spent together, making angels in fresh snow and sipping hot chocolate by a window. You push the memories away. You're no longer 21, in love, and full of hope for the future. The space between you seems to crackle, but the silence is a thick layer of hard-packed ice. It's Nat who breaks the silence first, sitting Kehoe down next to him. So, when's your flight home again? 2.5 hours. Yeah. You gotta go to, JFK? That's a big airport. You gotta be there already. With the change of expression worthy of a 60s sitcom, all the color bleeds out of Nat's face. What? Shit, need a lift? Nat's always looked out for you, in more ways than one. Some things never change. I mean, yes. Shake my head stiffly. I can't keep relying on Nat like this. You can right now. Give Nat a grateful hug. Thank you. How could I repay you? Do you want my firstborn child? Yes. We're not gonna hug him. We're not doing that, but we will take him up on the ride. Nat laughs slightly. And you remember how much you love the sound. Oh, come on. For the briefest of moments, you catch an expression flicker across Nat's face that feels almost too familiar. You joked about marriage and children once, but those days are over now. Oh, hell no. Keep your future children. Anyway, it's no problem. What's the point of a holiday if you can't even use it to save a... Nat falters a little bit. Are you a friend? What are you now? What are you to each other besides roommates? But soldiers on. There we go. A housemate in a time of crisis. A hesitation when Nat had said, housemate, makes your heart constrict. En route to JFK. Nat's one of the few New Yorkers you know who owns a set of wheels. You've spent countless weekends exploring the small towns along the Hudson River, hiking the nearby Catskills. Catskills is just... I don't think I've actually ever read it. Going on road trips. You'd been driving through a blizzard to Quebec, singing terrible pop songs at the top of your lungs, crunching through a whole bag of snacks when you first realized how in love with Nat you were. It was then you thought you might have found your forever person. As though reading your mind, Nat turns to glance at you at the next stop sign. What do you say when your family asks what you're still doing in New York? You'd expected to return to Singapore after college, but you started dating Nat in your senior year, so you'd find a way to stay a little longer. 1 year led to the next, and before you knew it, you'd spent nearly 3 years in New York after graduating. Oh, until a couple weeks ago, I thought I had something to stay in New York for. Rough. I do miss Singapore. Sometimes I wonder what I'm still doing here. Singapore's where I grew up, but New York's starting to feel more like home. As someone who just moved, what am I still doing here? At this point, you've been in New York for 7 years. You navigate its streets and labyrinthian metro system like a veteran. You have a small circle of friends and favorite spots, things you hate about the city, and things you defend to the ends of the earth. But some days, there's a bone-deep ache that niggles at you when you think about returning home. Nat had never pushed you to settle in New York for good, but you know how much of a strain it put on your relationship, not knowing if one day you'd move back to Singapore. At times, you wonder if the breakup had always been inevitable. After all, the two of you are from such different worlds. Without Nat, you're not sure there's anything left in the city for you. You let out a long exhale. Exhale? Exhale! I've been playing too much Magic and exiling too many cards lately. And look out the window on your side of the car. Sometimes I wonder what I'm still doing here. Nat stares at you for a long time. The pain in his eyes is unmistakable. There's a brief silence. To be honest, I don't know if the city will feel the same without you. The traffic light turns green again, finally, and Nat starts up the car again. You watch the snow fall. In a couple hours, the snow will turn to a nasty, squelchy mess, and it's the worst. For now, though, it's beautiful. The sort of beauty that's made all the more precious because it won't last. As you're turning into the airport parking lot, Nat glances over at you one last time. You can't help but think about how many times he'd driven you to the airport over the years, kissed you goodbye, and told you how much he'd miss you while you were gone. I don't think you guys are going to kiss this time. So, I'll see you when I get back. You know that conference I was talking about? Yeah, I remember. The one your advisor insisted on going for in place of you to present your paper. Apparently he didn't realize it was going to be on the 28th of December. Found out this morning that he can't make it, so I'll be presenting in Singapore. Are you catching the same flight right now, or what's happening? I'm not sure how I feel about this. We're about to go home, have some space, maybe have the chance to move on, and now he's going to be there too. Or at least in the country. Singapore is not one singular tiny space where everyone would bump into each other. Back when you'd been dating, 4 weeks ago, not only had Nat come to Singapore once, you'd wanted so much for him to visit again, but between your busy schedule and his, you never found the right time. The idea of Nat flying to Singapore stirs a complicated mix of emotions in you. It's a lot to process. And also strange that he didn't say anything about it until right now. To be honest, you'd already been imagining the week as a time to hopefully heal and move on. Don't worry, don't have to meet me or anything. No pressure. Look at this sad man. Nat stops at the terminal drop-off point. Have a safe flight. A day later. Christmas Eve. You wheel your luggage into the lift of your public housing block. The doors are about to clang shut when someone dashes towards you at full speed. A new potential love interest, perhaps? Stick out a hand. Oop. There was a timer. I'm just going to do it, which is a reflex I would have in person, too, to try to hold the door that way. Oh, dang. You leap into action, but the lift completely ignores your valiant hand-waving. These old lifts have a mind of their own. Just as you're about to panic, the lift door clangs around a boot. A second later, the doors jerk back open, and the person strolls in, grinning at you. Shay. Wow, you nearly lost your fingers for me. I appreciate it. This is too much for now. So eager to get in the same lift as me. Shrug and jerk a chin at the button's floor. Okay. The man smiles at you, dark eyes dancing with amusement. Ooh. He reaches out to press the button for the 11th floor, the one you live on. You put 2 and 2 together. This must be Shay, your neighbor's new tenant, the one your mother complains about in every phone call. The company he brings home, the late-night jamming sessions with his bandmates, the muddy mountain bike track he leaves in the corridor. You study the man in great detail as the lift starts trundling upward. He's tall, wearing ripped black jeans and a sleeveless red tee which shows off his strong shoulders, defined muscles, tan, sun-kissed skin. There's a guitar case slung over his shoulder, probably with a guitar in it. When you return your gaze to the man's eyes, you realize you've been caught staring. He winks at you. Like what you see? His voice is low and playfully flirtatious, and you can definitely see why your mother disapproves. He also has a sweet tattoo sleeve. Sorry, I've just heard a lot about you. Shay, right? We're neighbors, I say matter-of-factly. Blink, brain short-circuiting slightly. Ugh. Do you happen to flirt with everyone you meet in the lift? I'm just going to go with the very matter-of-fact response. Shay frowns, brows furrowing. You can practically see his mind worrying. Eventually, his eyes light up. Oh, you're the one who moved overseas, right? Your mother talks about you all the time. You nod, crack a wry smile. Complains about me often, you mean? Complains about him often, to us. Sometimes, among other things. Your conversation is interrupted by a loud ding as the lift arrives. You step out of the lift into the corridor. Ooh, this is pretty. You'd spent countless afternoons kicking a ball back and forth along this very corridor with your brother. You catalog the changes since the last time you'd been back home for Lunar New Year. It's been more than 8 months since then, much to your mother's disapproval. For one, there's a new row of thriving plants extending from your family's unit to the one next door. Shay smiles at you, gestures down the corridor. Want to be introduced to the fam? You blink. A second later, you realize he's referring to the plants. Sure, why not? Shay introduces each plant to you in loving detail. The finicky orchid, the indestructible ZZ plant, and the drama queen, fiddle leaf fig. Finally, Shay waves at your sad... Oh, what? My brain is like, how to compute? Oh, and I accidentally clicked when I was doing that, like I was highlighting text and I didn't read the rest of the sentence. Silly me. Think you could give this poor soul some TLC while you're here? I'm only here for a week. Oh. Shay's face falls slightly, but he quickly recovers. We'll make it count. Okay, neighbor. You continue on your way down the corridor to your unit. Oh my god. I love this mug. On the tail. Yeah, this is top tier mug. We got some football, a single weight, this giant little friend. This blue bird hanging out. Okay. Her mom is like modern, kind of stylish, has cute, silly, homey things. More plants inside. I'm home. I guess like sports, and hopefully her team is the one that's up 1-0. Oh, she is not happy. Her team is losing. Your mother rushes out of the kitchen to smack you in the arm. Ow! What? Why? You should have come back a week earlier, or stayed a week longer. 1 week? Pathetic. Not even enough time to binge watch a K-drama. You could binge watch a K-drama in a week. A second later, she pulls you in for a brief hug. She's never been a particularly physically affectionate person, but she does hug you each time you come back to visit. You return the embrace. In your arms, she feels smaller, thinner than you remember. Your dad comes running from his room at the commotion. He, on the other hand, has grown quite a belly. There you are. Should have let us pick you up from the airport. No need to waste money on a taxi. He waves a hand at the containers on the table, beaming proudly. A dappled from your favorite... Oh. Now we're going to be encountering more words that I will mispronounce, but I'm trying. From your favorite stall at Red Hill Market. Your mother frowns accusatorily at you, taking in your ravenous expression. Sometimes I think you come back home for the food more than for us. Your dad shrugs. I'm happy as long as something works as bait. Where's Dee? He's out for lunch with a friend. Again, on Christmas Eve. This is also... There's a word coming up that I watched a video on how to pronounce, but it's now been 30 minutes, and I forget. She makes apostrophe marks with her fingers at the word friend, and shares a meaningful glance with your father. Ooh. You take this with a pinch of salt. Your mother has a habit of simply assuming things she would like to believe. You're unable to stop yourself from thinking bitterly about how your parents had done the opposite with Nat, continuing to refer to him as a flatmate months after you told them about your relationship. You suppose that for them, it was just easier than confronting the fact that you were queer, and dating a black American instead of a Chinese Singaporean. Though, really, they should be used to your unconventional choices by now. Before you can sink further into these thoughts, the door swings open violently. Here's our bro. I'm home. He tosses the socks by the gate and sashays over. Look at how stinking cute this cat is on his shirt. Something smells amazing. Can I have some? Your mother rolls her eyes and mutters something about bottomless stomachs, but waves everyone over to the dining room. Elbow your brother, smirking. Mom thinks you are on a date. Nod at him slightly awkwardly. Smile at him. Sup. We used to be close, but we've grown apart since I left. We're gonna smirk. Your mom glares at you, betrayed. But your brother only laughs. Your mother's eyes light up with hope. So it's true? I can neither confirm nor deny. Your brother plunks down in the seat next to you. Every time I see you, you look even older than I remember. That's exactly how aging works, genius. Sucks to be you. At least I'm not getting dumber every year. This is very much a sibling relationship. The two of you grin at each other. You'd never admit it out loud, but it's good to see him. For the first couple of minutes, there's only the sound of utensils scraping as all four of you practically inhale the food. It's truly the best thing you've tasted in weeks, maybe months. After the feeding frenzy has died down a little, the four of you start chatting. You'd been close growing up, but you drifted apart after moving to New York. So, how have you been? Answer vaguely and remain mostly silent. Tell them about it. Let's just tell them about life in New York, especially if this would get the breakup to be revealed, since our ex/roommate is gonna be in Singapore any moment. We might bump into him. Let's just be forward with the details. You tell them about your job, the new hole-in-the-wall Chinese restaurant you discovered, and the latest dating disaster that has befallen Kenny, the son of an old family friend. It's almost as though you'd never left. Soon the food has been polished off, and we did not talk about our breakup, I guess, unless they already know about that. After lunch, you're in the kitchen with your mother, helping to clean up. Your mother had never expected you to really help with cooking or cleaning up after meals the same way she doesn't expect your brother or father to. When you were younger, you'd sometimes feel guilty about that and drained her in the kitchen as much as you could. The kitchen quickly became one of the few quiet, intimate places that you shared with your mother, a sanctum of sorts. She's always been most comfortable talking to you about difficult topics amidst the cooking fumes and sound of sizzling oil. Today, standing side by side at the sink, you can't help feel a bit of that old closeness. That's really sweet. You know, your father... She pauses, waves her hand at you. Well, we're both not getting any younger. She's been saying this for years in an attempt to guilt trip you into returning to Singapore, but this time something about her tone makes you think there might be a bit more to it than she's letting on. Just as you're about to ask her what she means, she shakes her head and turns away abruptly. I hope both of them are healthy and neither of them is about to reveal that there's something bad happening. Your mother walks off to tie up the garbage in a plastic bag. When she returns, her expression has softened into a smile. It's good to have you back. I just wish you'd stay longer. Let's appreciate the week we have. You blink. It's classic behavior from her. Something almost tender, bundled up with a jab, and all to distract you from what she's about to say earlier. She has to nod. What were you about to say? She shakes her head, as stubborn as you are. Nothing. Just tell your father not to eat so much only oily fried food, okay? You nod, about to follow up with another question, but your mother clamps her mouth shut, a clear signal that it's all she will say on the matter. Right as you head out of the kitchen to throw out the trash, your mom adds tentatively, how's, you and Nat? So they don't know about the breakup, and we didn't just tell them while talking about our life. You're not sure to be touched or horrified that she's finally recognizing a relationship with Nat, now that it's finally over. No, I'm not gonna lash out right now. I'll do this. We'll be neutral. I'm not gonna do the lip bite. Nat, maintain a neutral expression. Nat's fine, but we're no longer together. You've never really been the type to go into the details about your love life with your family, but you do mention Nat from time to time, and he features in your phone calls. You rip off the Band-Aid, trying to keep your expression as neutral as you can. Nat's doing alright, but we're no longer together. Your tone comes off more dead inside than the calm you'd been going for. Your mother's jaw drops. Oh no, how come? You sigh wondering how to summarize all the subtle tides that had, little by little, carried you both in different directions. I guess in the end, it just felt like we really didn't belong in each other's worlds. You brace yourself, waiting for her to say something about how she told you to date a Chinese Singaporean, but she doesn't. In fact, she actually does look sorry for you, even though her tone is gruff. It sounds like classic mom behavior. With internet, there's still such a thing as different worlds? Meh. You draw a long breath and shrug. Well, anyway, you can talk to me whenever you want. I'll try not to sound like an annoying parent. You nod, grateful, and honestly a little surprised at how your mother's actually trying to talk to you. That's new. The two of you stand wordlessly in the kitchen for a while, until finally you grab the trash bag and head out. Okay, we actually had like a little heart-to-heart with our mom. Didn't anticipate that. Just as you ran in the corridor to the shared rubbish chute, you bump into Shay. He is repotting one of his plants in the corridor, humming a little tune as he works. He pauses and looks up while you walk past. He's got a Knicks shirt on. Okay, and he knows that we live in New York. He brightens and gives you an enthusiastic wave, nearly flinging a couple clods of mud at you in the process. Stop to chat. Are you singing to your plants? Give him a wave. Hang around trying to come up with an excuse to start conversation. He's not the one that we're going to be interested in, but we're not going to just, ignore him. You draw a little closer, smiling. Are you singing to your plants, by any chance? Shay's grin widens. After carefully setting the plant into its new pot, he straightens and looks at you. If you're jealous, I can sing to you, too. Okay, dude. To your surprise, Shay does begin to sing, his voice oak-timbered and rough-hewn, just a tad deeper than his usual. If I showed up in the shape of a storm, would you recognize me? What? Strange as it seems, I have known you before. Shay grins at you. Hey, I've been meaning to ask. Maybe we can hang out while you're here? I'd love to get your number. I don't want us to spend that much time with them. We've already established we only have a week here with our family, and our family really wants to be spending time with us. So I wouldn't, as the character or as myself, spend that much time with just a totally different third party. I'm not going to say I'd rather not, though. That's a little too mean. Okay, sure, but if you piss me off, I'll pass your number to my mom, and she can rant at you whenever she wants. Shay lets out a throaty laugh. That's just pure evil. Thought your mom was bad enough, but I see you've inherited all her ruthlessness. Don't get on my bad side. After you've keyed in your number, Shay adds, by the way, I'm performing at a Christmas show tomorrow. Wanna come? We just met 5 minutes ago and you want me to spend Christmas with you? Great music, drinks on me after, and you're the one who suggested a dinner invite. Anyway, no pressure. I'll send you the deets and you can decide tomorrow. I'm not gonna go to an event with someone who says deets and who's a Knicks fan. I'm a Bulls fan. I have to hate the Knicks, even though it's all early 90s rivalry. You nod, mulling it over as you head back into the house. You can already hear your mother in your head grumbling about bad influences who drag you out to wild late-night parties instead of spending time with family on Christmas. A few hours later... Ooh, this is really pretty. The reflection. Beautiful. Much to your parents' dismay, you're spending the evening at a reunion with your junior college classmates. So yeah, we're spending Christmas Eve at a reunion. We're not going to spend Christmas Day at our neighbor's show. Junie, another cute cat shirt. Dude, people are going to be so excited to see you. It's been years. I stare at a picture of you on my phone every couple of months so I don't forget what you look like. You laugh. Junie has been your best friend for years, so you know just how dramatic she can be. That's creepy. Also, I haven't seen the rest for years, but I literally just video called you a month ago. The two of you continue strolling along the canal, which will take you all the way to the restaurant where you'll be meeting the rest of your classmates for dinner. At first, when you'd heard that key, again, a word that I just watched how to pronounce like 50 minutes ago, already forgot. I'm going to say Q. No, I'm not going to say Q. I don't still have it open. I'm going to go back to key. Would be there too. You'd almost canceled, but Junie had been persuasive. It's been nearly a decade. I'm over them. To be honest, the thought of seeing Key, dang it. I should have watched the pronunciation like 5 times instead of 2 times. Well, I think they are the third option, and I've already decided we're not getting it back with our recent ex, not interested in Neighbor. So, to be honest, the thought of seeing them again makes my heart twist in complex ways. Shortly after things had gone to shit between you two, you'd left for New York for college and hadn't spoken to her since. Maybe you'd feel differently if you'd still been happily in a relationship with Nat, but as of 4 weeks ago, now you're single again and you can't help but let yourself wonder what it would be like to see Key after all these years. She would be dangerously similar to the person you'd fall in love with as a teenager? Junie shoots you a wry look. Maybe tonight's the night the two of you finally get over the bad blood between you. You take a breath, and then accidentally click and skip the rest of the sentence. Flashback to 10 years ago. It's a pretty sweet pool. You're at a party with Junie and her boyfriend, Tech. At some point between the rowdy drinking games and chit-chat, you wander out to the pool alone for a bit of a breather. You get a couple of seconds of blissful solitude before someone else slips out the back door and joins you. It's Key. You've seen her around in school, but you've never been in the same class. She's got a cool shirt, jacket, and looks like she doesn't give a fuck. Needed some peace and quiet? You laugh and raise an eyebrow at her pointedly. Yeah, well, I'm not going to get it now. From there, the conversation's momentum seems sweeping you along with it. Throughout the conversation, Key's eyes linger on yours. She's a good listener, and somehow, even though you've only just met, it feels as though you've known each other for years. Time passes in a hazy blur, thick and viscous like honey, dripping slowly from a jar. Interesting way to describe the passage of time. People occasionally come in and out of the back door, but you barely even notice. For who knows how long, nothing pierces the bubble that forms around the two of you. Eventually, though, the party begins to empty out, and the few remaining people come streaming out of the house. Suddenly, there's a loud whoop, and the host dives headlong into the pool with a massive splash. A second later, everyone hoots and plunges in after him one by one, cackling, and cheering erupts around you. Alright, seems like the madness has started. I'm heading home. That would be me too. I'd be like, this is the moment that is now too much for me. Time to leave. Yeah, let's get out of here. The two of you say your goodbyes to the rest, then walk out of the house together. You linger at the front gate. This is a fancy neighborhood. There are no stars. Not that you can see anyway. But the sparkle in her eyes is close enough. It seems neither of you want to say goodbye just yet. The motion is so quick, you're not sure if you'd imagined it, But you can just about swear you see her eyes dip down to your lips. Ooh. Okay, step closer, murmur, you gonna kiss me or what? Press her up against the house's wall. Whoa. Take a deep breath and let the moment pass. We're gonna go with the middle option, which is not letting things pass, but not being this aggressive either. Your breath hitches as Key closes the distance between you. One thing had led to another tonight, but you certainly hadn't expected it to lead to this. The kiss is bruising. Her hands come up to grip your hips, and the world swirls around you. Whoa. When she finally pulls away, she's breathing hard, eyes still dark with desire. So, how are you getting home? Want to walk together? You smile, glad that she found a way to make the night last just a little longer. Back to the present. 10 years later. That kiss was the first of many. Your feelings for her had rolled in like a sudden thunderstorm, sweeping you up so quickly you'd never even had the chance to question what you were doing. But now in hindsight, the sweetness of sinking gently into that first relationship will always be tainted by the memory of how things had soured between you. You and Junie stop walking. She hasn't interrupted your reverie, but now she lays a hand on your shoulder and squeezes. Besides that, you never told another person what happened between you two, and maybe Junie guesses some part of it, though. You gonna be okay later if she shows up? Because if you'd like to bail on the class reunion, I know the best Burmese place down that way. You give Junie a wry look. I should have a wry look counter. I think there's been 3 of them so far. And shake your head. I'll be fine. Let's go. The restaurant is all sleek. Black and white lines and dark mahogany. The space thrums with Christmas Eve energy. Clinking glasses, bursts of laughter, murmur of low conversation. You scan the sleek interior until you spot familiar faces at a corner's booth. Tech and your classmate Junie's boyfriend. Still together 10 years later. Wow, good for you two. Gives you both an enthusiastic wave and dashes over, pulling both you and Junie into a bear hug. You're heading toward the table with the 2 of them when the door swings open again. Something, instinct, perhaps, or perhaps just bad timing, makes you turn to look. It's your ex. She's got a gold watch and a cool top and the same expression in her eyes. She stands silhouetted in the doorway. The smile on your face freezes in place. Time slows. Key's eyes meet yours, and all the air whooshes out of your lungs. Her dark gaze is exactly how you remember it. Turbulent, depthless, frustratingly unreadable. You let your eyes trace the hard, angular structure of her cheekbones and jaw down to her tailored shirt and pants. It all speaks subtly of success, power, prestige. Yes, the watch especially. All the things her parents had always wished for her. No, expected of her. You hear she's a public prosecutor now. Dang. And she certainly looks the sort of person you wouldn't want to go up against in court. And yet, in the subtle softening of her eyes as she holds your gaze, you see traces of the Key you once knew. You swallow thickly. Had she, too, imagined this moment in her dreams 100 times? Had she rehearsed 1,000 different lines to say to you all these years? She's too cool for that. Or gives off the vibes of being too cool for that. Slowly, she lifts her chin, her lips curl into a wry, almost cryptic smile. Is this her 4th wry smile? I was starting to think I'd never see you again. Ooh, me too, I say, coolly. It's been a while. Remain silent? We're not going to remain silent. Let's just lean into it. I missed you. I admit it. Too honest for my own good. Your honesty seems to floor both of you. She blinks a couple times, then takes a soft, shuddering breath. You'd known that meeting her again would send all these memories rushing back, but it has a stranger hold of you than you'd expected. Her face softens into a smile that makes your heart flutter. I missed you too. Ooh. You let out a soft sigh. Even after everything that had happened, it seems she still has some ability to scramble your logical thinking brain. She pushes a strand of hair out of her eye. You recognize the tic. She does this when she's nervous or uncertain, and there's been a time you'd found it impossibly endearing. Eventually, after chatting for a while, her gaze slides to the table where your classmates are seated. Watching the two of you with undisguised curiosity, she tilts a chin to the back exit. Can we talk outside for a bit? Use humor as a shield. Yes. You're beginning to panic, so you reach for humor as a coping mechanism. Sounds like the start of every murder mystery. She laughs, shaking her head. I promise I don't plan on killing you. It will just be an accidental murder. Yeah, so no promises? You won't do it accidentally? She cracks a smile at this. Okay, I promise I won't do it accidentally either. You wave a hand in front of you, trying to hide how your heart rate's beginning to quicken. Alright then, lead the way. You follow her out the back door to the... we're restarting the sentence. You follow Key out the back door of the restaurant into the alley. The doors swing shut behind you, shutting off all of the noise. A crescent moon hangs like a silver comma. I love that. Just those 7 words or so. Beautiful. A crescent moon hangs like a silver comma against the night sky, barely visible between the rooftops of old shophouses. Each back door is flanked by a motley arrangement of dented garbage bins, air conditioning compressor boxes, and plastic chairs well worn from countless smoke breaks. Now, though, the alley is almost empty, save for several lonely pigeons pecking the ground for invisible food scraps. For a while, the two of you stare each other down, wordlessly, with the sound of pigeons having their dinner in the background. Once, almost 10,000 miles of sea had stood between you and the past that you had fought so hard to leave behind. Now, Key's standing so close you can smell the familiar scent of her soap. She hasn't changed soaps in 10 years. One that transports you back nearly a decade. You grit your teeth and step back, trying to render her proximity less overpowering. You don't want to be reminded of the sweet times, the simpler times, times when touching her, loving her had been as natural as breathing. Okay, we're outside. You ball your fists to stop your hands from shaking. What did she want to say? She takes a deep breath, and something shifts in her expression. Whatever had remained of her hard exterior crumbles to dust in front of you. That's the end of the demo. Jaw dropped at that being the conclusion. Oof. Okay, well, had a delightful time. Really enjoyed the artwork. My favorite color is green, and green was very persistently on the screen in every single scene, I think. It was like a main color in the palette. Very curious what's going to go down here. I think when I play the full game a year from now, I'm going to have to do the beginning pretty similarly, because now I want to just... This is the relationship track we're on. I want to maintain that for 7 more chapters. But you should check out the demo yourself. It's available on itch.io right now, on the Monsoon Games itch page. And they're going to have this demo up on Steam very soon as well. I think within the next week, but very soon. And go ahead and give them a wish list too. I need to do that myself. But I will talk to y'all in the near future. I'm going to be streaming again this weekend. The time is to be determined. I have about 13 different full games and demos in a folder to start slowly chipping away at, and I think I'm going to focus on any 2025 releases in there since we're nearing the end of the year and there's still so much to play. But make good choices. Feel free to check out the Honest Indies YouTube, where there's some videos of game playthroughs that were not streamed. Find me on Blue Sky at Honest Indies, Instagram at Honest Indies, and have a good rest of your day, night, morning, whatever time it is for you.